Well, the images, they've been absolutely heartbreaking from Florida's Panhandle. Booming cities leveled by the powerful hurricane. But Michael also hit hard as it pushed northeast into Georgia.
Yeah, so it hit that state as a Category 3. Remember, we talked about that. The stronger it is, the longer it takes to wind down. But it put a major dent in the state's agriculture, okay? One of the hardest hit crops was the pecan trees. This picture taken from Bainbridge, Georgia, shows just how much damage Michael did to one of the state's staple crops.
Let's bring in the impacts. Let's bring in Georgia's agriculture, Bob Kemerite, to talk more about this. He's an extension specialist with the University of Georgia. So which crops were hit the hardest by Michael?
Well, thanks for having us on. Thanks for including the University of Georgia and our growers here and keeping us in mind. The crops that were hit hardest most likely in Georgia would have been our pecan crop, but also the cotton crop that I work with most closely. Those crops were not only hit hard, but they were at a very vulnerable stage when the storm came through, and losses will be devastating for many farmers.
Bob, I want to ask you, we see a lot of the cotton. There's still some that's, on the stalks there. Is there any saving any of it, or is once it gets wet before harvest, forget it? At the stage.
That's a great question. I had a colleague yesterday who said, well, it doesn't look so bad to me, but it's not just what's left on the plant. It's also what's on the ground. And we may still have cotton in some areas, and in a lot of areas we do have cotton, but on the ground that they can't pick may be 500-600 pounds of cotton. So in some areas we got complete devastation. We have 80 to 100% losses. In others, it may not be that much, but what's on the ground, which cannot be recovered, is likely to be the profit that the growers could have expected.
Will we feel the effects in our wallets? And if so, how long does that trickle down take?
That's a good question, and that's one that the economists will be answering and looking at for a long time, getting exact numbers. But I will say this, that Georgia's agriculture is huge for our state and for the region. Anything which affects our farmers in such a dramatic and devastating way is certainly to affect the economy in the state and region as well. So whether it affects you as far as the price of blue jeans, it will have an impact on all of our economy in this area, and that will trickle down.
All right, Bob, one more question. 3 crops, I want you to tell me where they're going to be at this time next year, providing no historic weather events. Cotton, peanuts, pecans.
As far as acreage, we can't predict, but the problem with the pecans is that growers have lost a lot of mature trees. It takes about 15 years to get a tree grown to replace this one. Our pecan have taken a heavy hit. Our cotton acreage, growers will ask us now, after 3 years of bad storms coming through, what are we going to do? I think what we have to do is look at research. We have to look at the opportunity. How can we make our cotton crop more storm tolerant, recognizing that the new norm may be more hurricanes coming in? The peanut crop is relatively safe as far as these storms go, as long as we can protect it and we can harvest it on time. So the peanut crop is probably the most storm tolerant. Our pecan crop losses will not be able to be made up for at least 15 years as far as replacing trees. And as far as the cotton crop grows, more research, more effort needed to find how we can make a vulnerable crop more tolerant to storms like this if they become more of the norm.
All right, Bob Kemerite, an extension specialist with the University of Georgia. We certainly appreciate you coming on this morning.
Wasn't it Matthew a few years ago that took out pecan trees too, if I recall? There was a storm that came up. It was just 2 years ago. I remember.
I trust your memory.
I trust your memory. Very susceptible to wind.